Welcome to the Slow Living Collective podcast. I'm Amy, wife, mother of two, and a homemaker by choice. Around here, slow living isn't a trend or an aesthetic, it's a lived seasonal rhythm, and it's a gentle revolution. In these episodes, I share reflections on living at a human pace, tending to our small home, growing food on a balcony and at the allotment, and finding joy in the ordinary days. This is a space to question default, to step out of the rush and to choose a quieter, more intentional way of living. If you're ready to join the unhurried revolution, then you're in the right place. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Slow Living Collective podcast. We did it, we're on the final episode, and I cannot believe it. This season has been incredible, and it has really sort of reinforced that idea to me that this was absolutely the right choice to switch from that constant every week grind of a podcast episode and actually move it into like a seasonal based thing. And I knew I really enjoyed, I knew I needed to change something when I took the summer off last year, and I was pleased with how that first season went up until Christmas 2025. And yeah, this season has made me realize that this is definitely it for me. It works so well, and it allows me both to be able to do what I love, which is doing this podcast. It gives me the capacity to be able to also do another thing that I love, which is write. And it gives me the space to do both of those through the year. There are seasons where we have the podcast and like a blog style post, and there are seasons where we just have the writing. More importantly, it has allowed me to really have the space in life that I stand here and teach, a bit too strong, I guess, but pontificate on, let's say. And so I really wanted to end the season well. And I want to end the season by talking about what I'm no longer willing to compromise. And I hope that you'll be able to listen to this and apply it into your own life as well, and start thinking about some of the things, after everything we've listened to this season. And if you've just shown up on the last episode, I run this podcast seasonally. It will be twice a year. You can go back and listen to the previous 10 episodes and actually an entire back catalogue. I have so many podcast episodes in general. I think by the time this one airs, it will be 157 episodes, which is huge, by the way, and I'm super duper proud of that. So actually, on that note, if you want to leave a rating or a review, that really, really helps this podcast, helps other people find it. So you can just head to wherever you listen to your podcasts and just leave a rating or a review. And I would be most grateful. Okay, so let's dive into today's episode properly, because I want to end this season by talking about something that's become clearer to me over time. Not suddenly or anything or dramatically, but just literally through living in the ways I share here. Now, there are things I used to compromise on without really noticing, things that I would explain away as maybe practicality or flexibility or just how life is at this stage. And slowly I just kind of started to realize that some of those compromises weren't neutral, and they were costing me something, whether that be my steadiness or my energy or just the sense of being at home in my own life. And this season of the podcast has really moved through a lot of themes. When I sat down and started planning what I wanted the episodes to look like this time, I was really intentional with the way that was. I didn't just want to sort of like throw a bundle of topics together and just hope for the best. I really was thoughtful in what I thought you guys might want to hear, and in more depth. We're 157 episodes in. We can find things about, slowing down and what to do and how I grow on my allotment or my balcony or sourdough bread or there's a lot of stuff, a lot of content, a real lot. And so this one was really intentional, and I wanted to go deeper and leave you hopefully feeling as though you really got some clarity on some things. And so, like I said, we've moved through a lot of themes this season, like slowing down, enoughness, living in an ordinary life, choosing differently, and just letting things and seasons of life be as they are. But underneath of it all has been the same question: where am I overriding myself, and how can I make all of this fit into just my ordinary life? And for me, the first place that showed up was in how much I ask my nervous system to tolerate. Now, I have ADHD, and so my nervous system can be shaky at the best of times. And, sometimes I get overwhelmed and overstimulated. Sometimes I am in full power mode, hyper focus mode right now. But other times I am not. I am just in actual paralysis mode, and just being kinder on my nervous system is huge. I've lived for a long time feeling as though being constantly on the edge was just part of being a functional adult, and that if I could just organize myself better, try harder, stay on top of things, that I would ultimately feel more settled. But eventually it actually just became obvious that no amount of efficiency was actually going to make life built on urgency feel safe, especially with ADHD. And building on from urgency, I'm no longer willing to live as though everything is urgent, and I am no longer willing to treat exhaustion and busyness as just a personality trait. And that doesn't mean I expect life to be easy, because of course life is never easy, but it just means I expect it to be possible, and I I think I'm I think I do better at that now. Another thing I'm not willing to compromise is coherence. I really noticed at how often I was translating my life to others, softening it so it didn't offend anyone, explaining it, making it sound more reasonable so other people would understand it. And the cost of that is really subtle, but it is there. Every time I did that, I moved a little further away from myself. And I don't need my life to be impressive or easily legible or appealing and palatable to other people. I just need it to feel internally aligned to me. And that's been a really big shift for me, just letting my life make sense to me first and trusting that that is enough. And, I mentioned busyness earlier. Something else I feel like I've stopped compromising is pace. And it's not because slower is morally better, but because having an appropriate pace is better. And, sometimes we're in seasons that allow for momentum, and sometimes we're in seasons that just don't allow for it. And forcing myself to keep up a pace that my life can't sustain has honestly never led to anything good. Never. And I think that's something we can take away. Busyness is a core part of our modern society. Busyness, productivity, nothing good comes from keeping up a pace that eventually our lives can't sustain. And we can't sustain that pace. That is very clear, because that's why burnout happens. Now, pace affects everything: how we relate, how we parent, how we work, how we recover. And I'm just no longer willing to ignore that in the name of consistency or productivity. And moving on to another thing, one of the quieter compromises I've let go of is that ordinary life needs justifying. And so for a really long time, I have treated ordinary days or my very ordinary life as something that I was getting through on the way to building something more meaningful. But over the last few years, I've really discovered how, an ordinary life, the routines, the repetition, small responsibilities, it's actually where my life happens. And I'm really not looking or willing to sacrifice that in pursuit of something that looks better but just doesn't feel as good. And listening to myself and listening to the seasons has changed how my life feels. And I want to say something here gently, because I know these conversations can touch tension points, let's say. And I understand that not everyone has the same choices, the same resources, the same privilege, the same margins. And I know that people who push back against these ideas are often carrying a very real strain of their own. But I've learned that I don't have to erase myself to honour someone else's hardship. Compassion doesn't equal or require self-betrayal, and understanding doesn't also require agreement. Um, but what I am no longer willing to compromise is my own honesty about what works for me, about what doesn't, and what it actually takes for me to live well. And if there's anything I hope you take from this season, it isn't a framework or a set of rules. It's just an invitation to notice where you're compromising in ways that quietly drain you. Like, not to fix them all or anything, but just to simply see them clearly. Because when you get that clarity, it's often the beginning of a change. This season of the podcast is coming to a close for now, but I will be back with a new season in the autumn. Until then, I'll still be on Substack each week, writing and thinking alongside you in a slower and steadier way, and in a rhythm that actually fits the life I'm living. So I hope you've enjoyed spending the last 10 weeks with me. I have enjoyed spending the last 10 weeks with you. It is a pleasure to be invited into your home, your car, your earbuds, and be able to just muse on these topics together. I am still going to be over on Substack. You can find me there, theslowlivingcollective.substack.com. You can also find me over on Instagram at The Slow Living Collective as well. Like I said, it has been an honour to do this season again with you, and I will be back with a new season, probably late September, October time. And yeah, like I said, until then, I will be over on Substack every week, still talking about the same things, but just in a slower, steadier way. Now let's go and enjoy the last of the spring and into summer. Let's enjoy it. Let's take the time to just absorb everything around us, and how, just really notice how the seasons change the way we feel. So I will be back in the autumn. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for staying with these conversations. Thank you for subscribing to this podcast. Thank you for subscribing to me over on Substack and Instagram. I am so grateful that I get to do this, and I will see you in the next episode in the autumn.